Hey, hi, and hello. Mad Ink Pyro here. How are you guys today? I hope you're doing great. I am going stir crazy. So I started to kind of screw around with some recipes. This is another cook video. You're getting two today because you have to have one to make the other. So instead of just having it already made and everybody going, how did he make that? I'm going to go ahead and make it from the base and go all the way through it. Now, not that I need this stuff again. Luckily, it's sugar-free. It's completely keto, so you can eat it for breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert, doesn't matter. We're going to start out with a chocolate mousse that, the base recipe comes from a guy called Joe Duff. He does cookbooks for keto. Most of his stuff is really good that I've tried so far. Now, I haven't tried everything yet, but I'll report as I make and eat his food.
Well, I did make his pumpkin muffins way back around Thanksgiving.
Well, that doesn't help me because I didn't eat one.
You didn't? I thought you did.
No, I didn't eat one.
Never mind then. Sorry.
So we're gonna run from scratch up, and we're gonna see, or I'm gonna show you guys how this is done. I did have an inquiry from Jenna Sneathen out of Georgia. Hi, Jenna. How are you? She was very inquisitive on how this recipe was made and how I did it. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a chocolate mousse, and it is amazing. And I had to tweak his recipe a little bit to make sure that it came out for what I needed it for as far as the chocolate souffle goes. Now, chocolate souffle in general is difficult to make. If anybody's ever tried to make one, they have a tendency to fall. That is normal, guys. Don't fret because your souffle fell, okay? It's still going to taste just as good. It'll just be a little more dense, not as airy. But let me tell you, it tastes like chocolate cake at that point. So, don't fret if your souffle falls. We'll get more into that later. So, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to hop into it. I've got all the ingredients I need. I've got everything measured out. I will give you the measurements on the way. No, I am not going to take the time out to post the actual recipe down at the bottom. You guys can watch the video, write it down as you watch it. That way you have it. The mousse is really good by itself. If you freeze it, it makes wonderful ice cream. If you refrigerate it, it's just great as mousse. And there's other ways you can add to it, like adding sugar-free caramel, or you could mix it in with some like raspberry, and you could make this mousse without the chocolate powder and turn it into any flavor you want using either Jordan's Skinny Syrups, which you would actually cut the sugar, or not the sugar, but the I'm using monk fruit erythritol mix. You can cut it with that. Jordan's Skinny Syrup's already sweetened, so you could actually flavor it and sweeten it with that. So that would change you can make peach mousse, you can make raspberry mousse, you can make vanilla mousse. It wouldn't matter. You can also cut in like raspberry puree and make a mousse parfait that way. That once you get the base of the mousse down, you can pretty much do whatever you want with it. Just don't flavor it. Don't add the chocolate. Add Jordan's Skinny Syrup. Don't add Jordan's Skinny Syrup. Add raspberries or blueberries. It's still keto. Your carb count is going to go up if you use the fruit because the natural sugar's in the fruit. But the flavor is going to be totally different and just as decadent. I promise you that. You can also use real, like Lily's chocolate or some type of sugar-free chocolate because they make it in white and regular and dark. And you could actually fold that into this mousse, which would make a white chocolate mousse. Now, the measurements there are a little different, too. And, of course, the white chocolate's already sweetened with erythritol, usually. If you do that, you want to do it very, very slowly and make sure it's thoroughly blended. So, at that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start this recipe. In this bowl, in my mixing bowl here, I have 4 ounces of cream cheese. Now, this is block cream cheese, not whipped. Do not use the whipped cream cheese. It's got other ingredients in it. Always use the solid block cream cheese. So we got our handy dandy 1950s hand mixer. Man, this thing's been through the battle. We actually picked this up. I believe we got it from a thrift store, did we not?
I think so.
I was looking for one now. I have a KitchenAid Pro, which is like a fantastic stand mixer. This though, I needed a hand mixer to do smaller things, so we ended up going to a thrift shop because you can find them nowadays, but they're not battle tanks. They don't last. They burn out very quickly, and God forbid you put in something thick like cream cheese to try to soften it and cut it up, and it'll burn out the motor. So I was like, I'm getting an old one. And, Amy's like, why do you want to get an old one? I said, because they're battle tanks. We've had this. We bought it from the thrift store probably 5 years ago.
If not longer.
If not longer,
Did
yeah.
you push the pin in?
Yeah, the pin's pushed in.
Okay.
The problem with the older ones like this is they do have a tendency to start falling apart. So there's this little pin here. If you can see it moving, that's what actually holds and locks the beaters in. So you got to make sure that's pushed. If not, you're mixing and all of a sudden one of your beaters falls out. But this thing's got a motor on it that's hard to beat. So anyway, I got your 4 ounces of cream cheese, and what I'm going to do basically is whip it to soften it. So we're going to turn this on and start slow and just kind of crank it up to high speed here and get it softened up. Do not fret if it gets all stuck in your beaters, because it will come out. Now, if you want to see what I mean, see how it caked up in the beater like that? That is absolutely normal, so don't worry about that. The next step we're going to do is I'm going to add my heavy cream. Now, I know this is going to sound like a lot of heavy cream. It's a cup. It's also 240 grams.
Milliliters.
Or milliliters, my bad. Scratch, milliliters. 240 milliliters of heavy cream. Now this is, I know it sounds like a lot, guys. This is quite a good bit.
Rubber spatula so you can get all the cream.
Of heavy cream. I've got it right here.
Oh, okay. I was trying to get you help, sorry.
So the heavy cream goes in, and you want to get, if you weigh it out like that, you definitely want to get it all in there. Because it counts, honestly, it counts on your macros. So you want to try to get as much as you can. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to blend this until it's about, whoa, I got an explosion. We're going to blend this until it's about half of what it should be as far as whipped cream goes. And all you're doing here really is incorporating the cream cheese with the cream. And it'll start to thicken up. Once it gets thick, or once it starts to get thick, you want to stop about halfway. I know it's hard to hear me because of the mixer, guys. I'm sorry. I don't have a mic set up yet. I will soon though. So you just kind of want to aerate it and get it all mixed in, and I'll show it to you here in a second. It does not take long. Okay, most people are like, oh my God, he's whipping cream. You don't want to turn it to butter. And now you see that chunk still in there? It will come out in a minute. But if you look, it went from cream to thick. I mean, it's pretty thick stuff. It's not quite, wow, look at me. It's not quite where it needs to be, but it's very, very close. So now after that, we're going to add the rest of the ingredients. Hey, Zane.
What do you need?
Get off your cell phone, please.
What do you need?
Teenagers and cell phones, I'm going to kill them. The ingredients. So what we're going to add now is I've got monk fruit and erythritol mix here at 40 grams. And we're going to add that in there real quick.
A lot of milk, part of it's powder, part of it's granules.
We've got 20 grams of Hershey's Special Dark Cocoa Powder. I like the Special Dark. I think it tastes better. If you guys like the original, use the original. It's all the same as far as carbs go and measurements go. You can also use the Ghirardelli type. You can, as long as it's unsweetened baker's cocoa, then you're fine. So that's 20 grams of that going in. Then we're going to do about a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And then it calls for a pinch of salt. Now, this recipe is actually technically 4 servings. So, this I used a little bit more. It's about, I would say about half a teaspoon, roughly, of salt. And that's a good healthy pinch. You use the salt to accentuate the cocoa. So now that all those are in there, start by kind of mushing it in. That cocoa, if you're not careful, if you've ever done any baking at all in your life, you understand. That cocoa will turn into a chocolate cloud. So you don't want that to happen. I've made that mistake I don't know how many times. Guys, I went to culinary school, but I am not a pastry chef, and this is technically a pastry. So, but give me a little bit of credit here where credit's due. I normally don't do recipes that involve cocoa and all that stuff. So, normally when I do that, it does explode on me, and I end up in this light brown cloud that smells really good. So now what we're going to do is basically blend this and whip it together until it's completely mixed. And then as we mix it, you gotta really pay attention to the clumps of like cream cheese and stuff. Make sure they're all broken up. Again, sorry for the sound. I know it sucks. But what you're trying to do is break all that cream cheese down. You're trying to aerate the mousse. You're trying to get everything incorporated. And it works pretty, it comes together pretty quick. Stand mixer would work for this. You can do it with a stand mixer. And then you want to spin off your beaters. Now, I want you to take a look at the beaters. If you see the beaters here, all that cream cheese is now incorporated in there. So if it does get stuck on your beaters, don't worry about it, you're okay still. So then we're going to take a rubber spatula and we're going to scrape the sides of the bowl completely clean down into the rest of the mixture. And the reason we're doing that is there's ingredients still stuck on the sides of that bowl that need to get in there. There's cocoa powder and little hunks of cream cheese and all that stuff. So once that's done, and then use your spatula, or use your beaters there to kind of clean off your spatula a little bit. Works great. So once that's done, we're going to go ahead and we're going to mix this again. But you don't have to, you don't have to mix it for nearly as long, and you don't have to be as violent with it, because it is mixed in good. Spin it off one more time. Just to make sure everything's incorporated. See? It all spins off and it's kind of like, and I know what everybody's saying. Oh, I'll lick the beater, believe me. After you taste this, you would lick the beater.
I would lick the beater.
So then you just want to scrape down the sides of the bowl, then scrape down the bottom of the bowl again. Just like I'm doing. Because you want to get all of that mousse, and this right here is your end product. It's light, it's airy, and it's absolutely wonderful tasting. This alone can be a dessert, no problem. Well, hell, it can be a lunch if you want it to be, but it's definitely good as a dessert. If you have massive chocolate cravings like Amy does, it is definitely well worth keeping on hand. Now, that being said and done, we are going to move into part 2 of the recipe day, I'm going to call it. I'm still going to do my regular vlog too, but we're going to move into part 2 of this so I can teach you guys how to make the souffle out of the mousse. That's why we started with the mousse. The mousse is edible on its own, but I highly suggest, if you're going to make the souffle, go ahead and make yourself a double or triple batch of mousse. A double or triple batch of mousse to, that way you have it. You can also top your souffle with the mousse, which is really good too. But always make a bigger batch than you think you're going to need because you are going to eat some. I promise you that. It is wonderful stuff. So guys, that goes for the mousse recipe. And for you guys, you'll see me in a second. It'll take me about 20 minutes to get everything ready. And get healthy, get happy, and I'll see you guys here in a bit.